All right, we ready?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 7 of the Highway 55 podcast. Lucky 7. And I got one of my favorite people in here this time. I tease him unmercifully. I've watched him grow up, watched him become a man that I'm extremely proud of. He's a good dad. He's a good husband. He's a wonderful businessman. So this time we have Alex Ramos in here with us. And Alex, great to have you, buddy.
Oh man, I'm excited to be here. I don't get to spend as much time with you anymore. So apart from the cameras and the intense heat from the lights and us sitting in here for 40 minutes, I'm just excited to hang out with you, man.
Our tech crew was not really on it.
It was.
I gave them an extra 5 minutes today too to kind of make sure everything was set up right. And
it was bad when they had to call the gray-haired guy that had to get his glasses out to fix the new technology.
Yeah, they brought Dave Thompson in to fix the technology. Dave, he's not exactly iPhone savvy, but somehow he managed to get it done.
In about 5 minutes.
I know. And the two youngsters in here, and I'm not going to name them, Isabel and Dylan, but the two youngsters in here, they seem to be struggling. But look, man, it's great to have you here, and I meant everything that I said on that intro. I consider you to be a dear friend. I consider you to be a brother in Christ, and just somebody that I admire. And it's kind of funny because when you started out, you were kind of you were a kid. And tell everybody kind of where you got started and why you're sitting in this chair today. How did you get from there to here?
Well, I think like every single person that's a part of this company and Highway 55 family, it's always an interesting story. It always involves, hey, I'll just see where it takes me, and you just end up being pretty decent at it and hanging in there. And so, number one, thank you for the kind words, and I think that I think the world of you. I think of you as a brother, father, friend. All of those things, and like every relationship like that, it's both the good and the bad that mean that it's real love, and I love you,
right,
and I appreciate you.
But
Started out like a lot of folks in this company as a fry guy in high school. And
how old were you?
I was 16.
16.
So
so you didn't have that sweet beard then?
No, man. I couldn't grow that till about like 4 years ago, man. So I was in that weird spot where I started so young that we never could have facial hair, just mustaches, and I didn't want to.
And I did that only for Neil Dennis.
Yeah, and I was like,
he had these sweet 70s porn mustache.
I mean, I can't imagine what me with just a mustache would look like. So it would be like Freddie Mercury or something. So it was never even a concept. So I didn't know what I would look like with facial hair until I was like, 38, something like that.
Yeah,
so
because you've been in this company for so long.
So that was an exciting moment. But
who brought you in? Who hired you?
James Adams hired me. So I had a buddy. His name was Walter Massey. Went to high school with him. And Walter worked at the Andes and Dunn, and I worked at Winn-Dixie already. And he was like, "Hey man, come work with us." So I started working both places, and.
Always getting ahead there, Alex. You were just trying to get ahead.
Hey, that was it. I didn't know any better. That's part of life. You just don't know any better.
Just grind, man.
Yeah. So I worked at both places, and I enjoyed working at Andy's back then. It didn't even feel like work. It wasn't rigorous. The shifts were pretty short. James at that point was expanding. He was having success. He had done a great job and really building a culture. I enjoyed being a part of that. It was like a family.
Right.
And he was opening up Benson and Andrew later on and Lillington after that. So as he was expanding, Paul Overby was there, and Paul was
Paul.
Paul was super fun to work with. A great guy. I spoke with him about a year or so ago, but Paul was real fun to work with, and he was one of those very paradoxical. He was a good manager, a good guy, fun. People would run through walls for him, but in hindsight, I remember some of the things that we do, and it's like, dude, how is this a professional atmosphere at all? We were throwing rotten lemons at each other behind the store and stuff. It's just crazy, 1990s stuff that you're just like, what in the world? But Paul was a great guy, and we were accomplishing. So he was working towards owning that store, and
Paul was?
Paul was, because James was the owner. So that's Paul, right. Paul was dating Marie. I don't remember what her name was apart from being married to Paul, and she was going to school at Campbell. So she graduated, and she kind of gave him an ultimatum. It's like, hey, go with me back to I think it was Massachusetts or Maine or something like that, and or
oh, wow.
Or I'm going without you. So he kind of left James high and dry a little bit. I don't want to say he didn't like walk out on him, but it was short notice. So I told James I was graduating at the time, and I think I had already taken some college classes while I was in high school, and I didn't really know where I wanted to go, but I told him, hey man, I'll work the hours for you. I'll work more hours until you find somebody, and then that just kind of turned into James saying, hey man, you're doing a great job. Why don't you try it out for a while? And that turned
So you became, in essence, a general manager at 18 years old.
Right.
Gotcha.
So I was 18, and then he, after I settled in a little bit, he took me to the side. He, I think verbatim, said, hey, if you run this like you own it, I will make sure that you own it.
Wow.
And I didn't know what that meant, but I would tell others that was what I was working towards. Hey, I'm going to own this restaurant. And, most people, including I think my parents, smile and say hi, yeah, but really we're like, yeah, right. You don't know the real world,
Yeah, I always like that. Because back then, the stores were, they were smaller. They're strip center, what we call legacy stores now. But we had a lot of young guys, and some didn't make it. Some followed, their fiancés or girlfriends to Massachusetts or Maine or whatever it was. But some like yourself, you were 18 years old. Literally, you were the CEO of probably a $500,000 a year business at that point in your life. And I've always wondered what the parents thought. So I always like to dig in on that a little bit. So they didn't discourage you, but at the same time, you probably didn't get a ton of encouragement either.
Right. It was more, I think they were a little bit skeptical of it, and just.
Which part? Do you think that you could actually own it?
Right, that I could actually own it. And I think, the fact that I was a manager, that was all, that was real. So they couldn't be skeptical of what was really,
You were getting your $350 a week. Yeah, exactly. So they saw that. They saw that check stub.
That's right.
That's real right there.
So it ended up that year we were having a lot of success, and it was kind of just, I don't want to say blind luck, but it was, in hindsight, you see the things that were done right, but they weren't done right on purpose, I guess. It was just, we built a team. It was a cohesive family. We strive for excellence. We ran a really, really good store, and to this day, I think my original team in Dunn was the best team I've ever had.
Really?
I run into, we've always stayed a family. We, friends on Facebook, we run into each other, and I've had numerous ones, dare I say, 6 or 7 of them come up to me and go out of their way and say that was still, to this day, the best job I've ever had.
How about that?
And a couple of them own businesses, a couple of them are really successful, and they all to this day say that. We give that team a lot of credit.
But see, that's awesome, and I'm going to stop you there for a second because, I tell my operators the same thing now, that you have the opportunity to own this store. And it's funny, I don't know if it's the times that we live in or what the case may be, but sometimes I get a look of like, really? Really? And I almost want to say, look, I can give you, 50 names that you can call and ask them if I'm, but there's a skepticism now that, back then, here you are, 18 years old, and you're like, okay, I'll own it. And you were all in on that. And you created a family. I wrote down, had fun. Because I think sometimes too that we forget that creating a fun atmosphere that not only the people that work with you want to be a part of, but the guests want to be a part of it too. It just kind of feeds off of everybody in there, and you're getting it done. Yes, the tickets, the food's flying out, but you're even having fun while you're doing that because you're talking a little smack to each other. Heaven forbid the fry guy not have the fries ready, right? Yeah. So that's fun if you got the right people who don't crumble under that, but are competitive and try to keep up. And then, like you say, the wait staff, everybody has fun. So I think that's a big key. I think that's Alex's first great idea here. So
there it is.
You got one.
Pressure's off.
Yeah. You got one. And that's the first great idea is just have some fun while you're doing it. But And you were, what do you remember what you were making, what your salary was?
It was not a lot. I don't remember it, but I want to say that it was probably like 32,000 a year or something like that.
600 a week, something like that.
Yeah, it might have been less than that, but I think I might have crept over there because we.
But you were working for ownership.
Yeah, I was working for ownership, and it was coming quick. You know, to a point quicker than I really wanted it to, because I didn't know what it meant. And you know, you're thinking, oh, that's 2-3 years down the line, and it'll be fine. I'll know what I'm doing by then. And then you're just working every day. You're getting results. I mean, we were a top 5 store. We won Cy Young.
Back then.
Cy Young Award. Yeah, I remember that. And we did. I think James stole my Rolex because he did some bad math, and it was like, well, you only ran it for this part of the year, and I was like, well, you didn't run it for any part of the year. That was my Rolex. But
what he's talking about there is back in the day when our specials were $4.25. Okay, now they're almost $10 or over 10, and but back then they were $4.25, and the stores that did $500,000 in sales, the operator I got them a Rolex, and I would make a big deal of it in the managers meeting that that you could go work for somebody else for 30 years and get a gold Timex, or you can do $500,000 here and I'll give you a Rolex. And you had earned one of those at 18 or 19 years old.
Yeah. Now, in all fairness, the next year James bought me a Rolex, so I got my Rolex. Yeah, he just bought it.
Was
it
awesome.
came out of pocket for him.
But that was, once again, that's who we are. Yeah.
And but it was also part of, and I think this is a big one, and it kind of goes along with when you said have fun, is society, and it creeps into what we're doing also, have a tendency to always kick the can down the road and make everything somebody else's responsibility. And the have fun part, it wasn't just for the guests, it wasn't just for the staff. It's for you too.
Oh, absolutely.
You're creating the atmosphere that you live in. It's your house. And if it's a house that is cold and unfriendly and you dread walking into it, that's all you.
That's
right.
Right.
And I think that was the first nugget of wisdom that stuck with me is no one is going to overwhelm the atmosphere of my home because it's my home.
Right.
So I always created that atmosphere, and I think I learned that from James. I don't think he knows he taught it to me. I don't think he knows he did it well or does it well, but he does that in the stores that he's been in. Is he creates a family. I think a lot of that comes down to the fact that he doesn't have a lot of family close by. So his work family, his friends become that family,
Sure.
And then people are drawn to it. So retention is higher because you're not working someplace, you're part of the family.
What did your schedule look like back then?
Back then I worked 3 open to closes, 3 open to 5s, and a day off. Was my normal schedule, and I've always pretty much kept the same version of that schedule the whole time I ran a store all the way through. I think the last full year I personally ran a store, I think was 2016, 2015, something like that. And my schedule was identical. So I always was very structured in the schedule because the schedule had a purpose, and that was to grow sales, to maintain sales, but also to give me life balance. I've always believed in that, even with a schedule where people would say, hey, that's still 55 hours or whatever you were working. But the outside parts of my life were important, and I tried to protect those. So when I made a schedule, I would always first schedule Fridays, and Fridays were, that was bread and butter. You go in Alex Ramos store on Friday, it was murderer's row. I mean, my best cooks, my best servers, just the busiest night, but the easiest day because it was so easy. But I also ran 12-13% labor on Fridays because I actually ran it heavy the other days. I would rather Superman it one day, knowing I'm there, not Supermaning and expect somebody else to do it, but on my day.
Yeah.
And so that would allow me on Sunday, which was my day off, to schedule all my strong people. Mm-hmm. So I knew that the expectation wasn't to run 18% labor for them on Sunday because I was off, and my salary carried a weight.
Sure.
So it was unfair for me to say, hey, carry my salary and run 18% labor, because really at then I would have been telling them to run 11% labor or whatever in
Right.
order to do that. So they would have suffered and the customers would have suffered.
Right.
So I always had to make up a little. So my Sunday target was, hey, you guys run 26% labor. But then I can't let it get out of whack my slow days, and as I get volume, I got to bring it back.
You got to bring it back.
And I would do that, and I would run 18% labor every week. But really, I would only hit labor probably 3 days. So I would hit labor Thursday. I would go under like He-Man on Friday, and then I would He-Man it Saturday day and leave them in a good spot Saturday night, and it would all add up labor because my Thursday, Friday, Saturday, the weight of those 3 days was probably 65% of my sales.
Sure.
So I ran under labor for 65% of my sales and over labor for 25% of the balance. Right?
Yeah. See, I love that, and I'm actually some of our newer operators right now. We're actually doing that on Workplace, and I'm teaching that same thing. It's okay on your day off to run higher. It's okay. Matter of fact, I expect that you should, because we've still got to take care of the guest, and the 50 to 55 hours, the 55 hours a week, I look at it like this: if that's my business, because people would be shocked that I still work that now. Matter of fact, everybody in this office, with the exception of Dave Thompson, is long out of here before I go home at night. And I think that because it's my business, this is my company. This is a quiet time. My phone doesn't ring. I can think. Okay, I can calculate. I can do whatever. Nobody's coming in my door at that time. And back when I ran a store too, in the very, very early days, we were 4 days a week open and closed, too early and 1 day off. If your labor was in line, you could take Sunday off. And that was our old schedule, but we didn't do it just to save labor. We did it because nobody ran the store better than we did when we were in there. So I was going to protect that location, protect everything that I was building. I didn't want it to get messed up. As good as my people were, and I had some awesome people around me, as good as they were, it was still I felt like it was still one slight notch below what it was like when I was there, because I tried to do the same things that you're saying now. When I come in, I'm going to hit the door with energy. I'm going to walk in that door and I'm going to be like, let's have a great day today. Everybody ready? And I'm going to make sure that I'm focused and everybody around me is focused. And I think, Alex, you're talking about young and you didn't know what to do. But by creating that atmosphere every day you walked in, that was so far advanced from a professional manager, and you didn't even realize that you did it naturally, is that you walked in and created that atmosphere. We can teach you how to do the numbers. If I have to write your schedule, I can write your schedule, all right? But at the end of the day, I can't teach that all the time. You walked in the door with that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is comes from competitive nature and comes from, played basketball, I was a point guard.
Of course, I didn't think you were a center.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Well, I was the leader of the team, very much, shortstop, and you just
heavy on the short. But
when,
yes, go ahead.
When your team wasn't in it performing, you were the guy that was, let's go, guys, come on. Go. So it was natural. So you revert to what you know, even if you don't realize that what you know is what is right.
That's right.
Because that's what's ingrained in you. So that's what was ingrained in me. And I was probably tough to work for, especially compared to now. I'm sure, like you mellow over the years to a sense. And I remember poor Josh Tripp. He was one of my best friends in high school, and we lived together after high school. We hung out. We partied together back then at a different time, and then we worked together. And I would hold him to the same almost unreal standards that I held myself to, which was a credit to him, because he was mentally tough. But really, there was probably a lot of times I look back, I probably would have ran off anybody else, just because it was unfair. I remember coming in, and I remember I yelled at him one time because I'd come in and check the back wall from the night before, see how the clothes was. And man, it was spotless, but there was a tag that had grease all over. The tag on the gas hose. So this is how unrealistic my standards were. In hindsight, you can go to every one of my stores that I believe are all run really well, and you're going to find some grease and stuff. Yeah, just as realistic. So I just hammered him. I said, man, look at this tag, man. Who cleaned this? Just on and on and on. And I look at it and I'm like, my goodness, what?
Tyrant.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But everybody understood that there was a standard, and the standard was excellence.
Yeah.
And so
let me interrupt you
yeah.
real quick, because I really want you to talk to about this. You taught me that. And let me explain, because I know through the years you sat in a ton of managers meetings, and I've heard you say a lot of Kenneyisms. So a lot of them you may have even forgot that you heard them from me back in the day. So I know I've taught you a lot, but you taught me something, and I never thought about it. And then I kind of had this flashback about Disney and how they work, and then you said this. We were in the Dunn store when you turned that Dunn store around before they moved into the new one, and Alex was so. The groupings on the table had to be exactly alike, and that stuck with me. I'm looking at Isabel right now, because she's seen me do this in new stores. Like, guys, this has got to be right, because when you make the little things really matter, the big things kind of take care of themselves. And they know that's important, but now they know everything's important. And I think I'd like you to elaborate on that.
Oh, absolutely. I share it more with the layer of leadership I have underneath me now than I get to day to day with staff. Like I tell my guys, I get to be like the grandfather or the cool uncle now, and then the layer of leadership under me, they get to be the bad guys. So I hammer them, and then they hammer the store, and I'm just really nice when I go in my store. But we talk about items like unnoticed structure that creates a sense and an aura of cleanliness, and for a customer, for our staff, for everybody. When we're doing things right, a customer doesn't know that it's right. They're not going to come out and say, "Oh, your groupings are all together. You guys are awesome."
Right.
But when they're not,
right.
There's this chaos, this subtle chaos that goes on, that every table's a little bit lopsided, the groupings are off, maybe this is a little smeared, and it's like a pile-on.
That's right.
Where I can't tell.
And they think it's messy, and they can't even figure out why.
Exactly.
But they know it.
There's
they sense
something.
it.
I don't
Right.
know what it is, but there's
Right.
something. The first day we had taken that store open. Literally, they closed on a Saturday at 5. We had a staff meeting. My team, we stayed in there till about 2 in the morning cleaning, fixing things like loose tables. I mean, there was one table that if put this water bottle on one side and just pushed down on, I would have launched it across the room. No telling how long it's been like that. But things that were just easy fixes, and then just deep cleaning, basics. And we structured everything, and there was a lady the next day, a Sunday morning, and she took probably 3 steps into the store. Must have been a regular customer, older lady, and she pulled someone to the side, and she said, "Hey, what's different?"
Yeah.
What's different?
She couldn't even identify.
She can identify, but it only took her 3 steps to
realize.
identify that something was different.
That's right.
And that's that subtle. It's almost that a store has a soul. That subtle aspect of identity that a store has, and she understood it had changed. I mean, there was energy, there was people. We had that day. That store was the best run store in the company.
Yeah.
So at that time, I think we had like 106 stores, and it was like number 102 in sales. So what I was saying is that number 102nd store was the best run store in the company. And we came in and we wouldn't accept any different. So the standards immediately wasn't, well, we'll start doing good a little bit here, a little bit here. No, today, this is the standard, and it will never ever be anything but that standard.
Right.
And we held it to that, and we did have skeptics in the staff, and
But you basically did it with the same people
absolutely
that were there prior when it was 102. And how long did it take you to move up the sales sheet?
So we probably in about a week moved up at least 15 spots, and I think a lot of that was just people start talking and then, but really within a year, it was a top 20 store.
Yeah.
And it was profitable probably within 3 months. But I remember being told by the previous owner that, hey, the staff is no good, and you're probably going to have to, rehire an entire new staff. And probably the first day we worked, we identified 2 or 3 A players, and those people were instrumental in helping us turn that store around. And it was a 16-year-old girl, 17-year-old girl,
That's right.
16-year-old kid. And it was really the leadership, or the people that were in positions of leadership, that were part of the culture problem. And they had to be overwhelmed.
That's what I was about to say. You know, it's funny that previous owner came to you and said, "You're probably going to have to replace." No, we've already made the replacement.
Yeah.
You're gone.
That's right.
Okay, so now we can get going in the right direction. I've always said, if I see a staff that's not right, for the most part, okay, because I use this line sometimes. I say, you know, when I'm speaking to a group of employees, raise your hand if when you got hired here, you said, "Whew, thank goodness, now I get to suck." Okay, raise your hand, because, and of course they all laugh.
I use that line.
Well, they all laugh and nobody raises their hand, right? Because nobody wants to suck. Now, if you have sucky leadership, then they're going to follow that. So no, it's all about the leadership. It always has been.
Absolutely. And what I have found, and I'm sure it's no different than what you've found, and as time goes on and as experience kind of teaches you, is that usually the issue is either the primary leadership or the secondary leadership. And both become the issue for the same reason. And that is when they stop working for something and they just start working. So what led them to that point was achieve, I'm doing well, I'm an asset, you know, so they're being motivated by this
That's right.
accomplishment and praise. And then they hit a point where they're either maxed out or they're not being invested into anymore. So the chatter stops from the top down, so they're just floating. And they start then, instead of working towards something, they start seeking comfort in work. And that's where the operational changes come in that drag the store down. They start changing policy on their own by the things that they do and lowering of the bar. A great example is this occurred in actually at least two of my locations recently, and I had to nip it in the bud really quickly. But it led me to a bigger issue, which is exactly what I'm describing, and that is in the drive-through. I worked in one of our locations, and I was doing fry station for probably 2 minutes when I caught it. And that was, looked at the screen, see an order, but there was no name. It's a silver car, whatever. And then, okay, no big deal. Also didn't hear, would you like to go large on that?
Mm-hmm.
So didn't say anything because it was one. But then the second one happened. And I said, wait a minute. And then a third. And then I called the general manager and said, listen, what do you hear? So worked a little bit more, and I said, okay, this is what's going on. They have found an easier way because we're not engaged. So their easier way is, instead of me saying, hey, welcome to Highway 55, this is Alex, I'll be taking care of you today, can I have a name for your order? They've said, well, that's, that might be personal, but that involves a lot of words on my part. It involves effort on my part. No one's really listening, and I know when we don't really hear the name, we're allowed to just put black car, red truck, whatever. So I'll just say,
when we don't hear or understand the name.
Exactly.
Not all the time, exactly.
But what happened is the leadership didn't catch it, so the secondary leadership, who are the slick ones, came out and realized it's easier if I just say, hey, what can I get for you today, and assign a car color to it.
Now you have lost all connection with that person in the car.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All personality, all everything that makes us different, we've lost.
Right.
And then also, hey, if I don't say go large, it's a quicker transaction. Look, I get paid the same amount per hour. Why do I need to go large?
Right.
So both of those things became an operational change mandated not by me, not by the general manager or leadership of the store, but by the secondary leadership that was
drive-through lead or whatever.
Exactly. That was not being led anymore, not being taught anymore past that part, or just kind of floating around, like a leaf flowing in the wind. It's like, hey, well, I'm going to make my job as easy and comfortable as possible.
Right.
And I don't think they're intent.
It's like the fry guy. Sometimes in a news story, the hardest thing is that you're doing so much volume, and you have to cook so many fries and stuff to stay ahead, right? You may be doing 14, 15, 16,000 a day. Well, what happens is that once the volume dips, there is no dip in the quantity that they cook, and you end up with the guy cooks like a bin full of fries and stands back and goes, "Well, I'm good for the next half hour." Well, those fries aren't, or I'm good for the next hour. Those fries aren't, because whoever gets those later on French fries, that's when the review comes in and, yeah, the French fries were cold or blah, blah, blah. And it's because he's found an easier way to do it, and nobody has stayed over his shoulder going, "Oh no, you should be putting hot fries up there continually. You should only have 3 orders, in the bin at a time." That's your number. It's not 30, it's 3. But you have to stay on that, and you're right. And Alex, I applaud you, because you were using your eyes and you were using your ears to go, wow, I got a problem here. A problem that is small right now. A problem that, once again, the person in the lavender car might not even know. But they just got a Hardee's experience. They didn't get a highway experience. And you want them to have a highway experience. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah, and it's
very
funny.
alert leadership.
Well, I appreciate it, but it's funny that usually when you find a problem in business and life and anywhere, and you it's kind of like a string hanging out of your shirt. If you pull on it long enough, it's going to lead you someplace, and sometimes it leads you to multiple places.
That's right.
Or if you tug on it hard enough, a sleeve will fall off. But what it found was that same issue was not just in one location, it was in more than one location. So it was an issue that 2 different teams
had come to the
same spot.
Isn't that crazy?
And so we recognized what it was the one position that our senior most leaders don't spend time in.
Yeah.
I'll work expo, I'll cook line, I'll be in it, but senior leader was very rarely. Our most talented people were very rarely in that drive-through area.
Which amounts to what percentage of your sales?
Well, it amounts to right at 50%.
So half of your sales, your other dining room, if you will, they didn't venture over there.
No. So not only did
they would never let a girl treat a guest at the table that way, but it was, they just, and I think a lot of it, Alex, is a lot of our guys are old timers that didn't have drive-throughs. But we forget that literally that could be half of our business.
And there was a disconnect also, because it wasn't natural to them. So it wasn't natural to the stores we transitioned over into these new concepts. So they weren't hearing it like, hey, why aren't you greeting? Hey, booth 4 hasn't been, they're all over that stuff. But over here, it was right under our nose, and we didn't catch a whiff of it.
Right.
So what we did is we brought some of our better help, our front of the house managers, to work over there. And I worked a shift just 1 week later. 1 week later, worked a shift. They were receptive of it, understood, owned it, made the changes on the schedule to correct it. Everything right. When you step in a mud puddle, how to clean it up.
Right.
They did everything right. And I worked a shift, same spot, and had a front of the house lead work in that area taking orders. Everything I heard was right.
Perfect.
But you know what? Go large, next order, go large, next order, go large, next order, go large.
So they were popping.
So they were asking, but the customer, like 65% of the time, says yes.
Right.
So they made a comment and said, yeah, on Monday we had roughly the same customer count, and we did almost $500 more in sales.
How about that?
Why? Go
There it
large,
is.
go large, go large.
How about that?
So yeah, it was. It's just one of those things, and it happens in every aspect. No store's perfect, no company's perfect, no individuals are perfect.
Right.
But it's what you do after. That I think is one of the greatest things I've ever learned, and I think I've learned it from you. I don't think you've said it, but I think you've shown it in the past. Is you always say, I know a good thing when I steal it.
Mm-hmm.
We have folks in our company, but really just in society, that you think, hey, look, I've got my master's in this, or I've got a bachelor's in this. I'm super smart. I'm hired. This is my title. I know it all. I'm good. I'm just going to do it my way because I know. I've never been that way. I've always, hey man, if I see something, it doesn't matter if I've done it a different way for 25 years. if I just see it and it's better, I'm going to change that tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know? And so there's no pride in it. There's no, oh, well, that's his thing and this has been my thing. No, why would I not? It's better, you know?
And you know, ironically, I'm the same way. I mean, I still am too. You know, I'm 60 years old now and have a company of over 100 restaurants and could sit back and say, yeah, you know, I'm pretty brilliant. But no, man, I learn all the time. And I know a good thing when I steal it. And if I see something that's really good, I'm going to steal it. And now we may put our own little twist on it or whatever, put our own personality on it, but that's what we're going to do. So we're going to fast way forward here. You've gone very, very young owner, okay? Owner at what age again?
20. So 7
20.
days short of my 21st birthday.
7 days short of his 21st birthday. And now you own how many locations? And if you were to extrapolate a year from now, what would your volume of your company be? If you wouldn't mind sharing with
So
me.
we own 7 locations. 5 of them are our new full drive-through freestanding buildings. So those average right around $2 million in sales. So have 5 of those, so that's 10, and then our 2 other stores are $1 million locations, so that'd be a $12 million company.
You got a $12 million company, man. Would you have ever seen that when you were 20 years old?
I don't even think I knew what that meant when I was 20 years old.
Well, let me ask you, and we'll wrap it up with this one here because I don't want to talk anymore. I think you've literally imparted enough wisdom that I don't want you to give them any more right now. We're going to bring you back and we'll do this again.
Awesome.
But you've imparted enough wisdom from a peer that hopefully it'll resonate with them and the person that's very, very successful in our company. But I want to ask this last question: are your parents proud of you now?
Absolutely. My mom posts every time we have a store opening. She's like spamming stuff where I'm
She's
almost,
your social media
I
guru.
almost cringe. I'm like, stop, Mom.
Because she's so proud.
She is absolutely. It's she's the first person to say that's my son. Did you know who my son? Do you know? You know, like I said, it's cringy to me, but at the same time, my goodness, how blessed am I to have a mom that's proud of me and loves me.
Guys, alert, energy, fun, work hard. I mean, these are all these lessons that Alex has shared with you today. And I want him to know, too, that I'm not his dad or his mom. I still like to consider myself just a big brother. I don't want to age myself too much. But as his big brother, I'm incredibly proud of you, man. I love you. And, you know, you're going to be great like me. That's how long we're going to be friends.
I love you, man.
Okay? Love you, too, man. Thanks, everybody. Till next time.